Unmuted? Whatever you want to do. Yeah, you can come down the middle. You can go on the, whatever works for you. You can go on the middle, that's fine. You can, he's got us muted out there.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight. My name is Joe Mount. I am the co-artistic director of Music Carolina Summerfest. The other co-artistic director is Matt Kendrick, who's going to be playing bass tonight, so he'll be out in a second. Thanks for coming. The most important question I always get is, where are the restrooms? And they're out in the lobby in that direction. There will be a short intermission tonight.
Just see me if you don't know where you're going.
If you have any questions about anything, that's Hillary. Ask Hillary. She has all the answers. Thank you, Hillary.
You're welcome.
So tonight's program is very special. I've known Jason many years, since he was a student at School of the Arts, and I know this is a real labor of love for him. And I've seen him develop this show. I've seen bits of it already, and it's really wonderful, as you will discover if you haven't seen it before. I would like to say that we have several other concerts coming up on Summerfest. There is a schedule in your program, and we've added a series this year. It's a free concert lecture series called Latte and Learn. That schedule is also in your insert. And it's clever, Latte and Learn, but you can, if you come up to the Intergenerational Center for one of those, you can get a latte. There's a cafe. I don't know how many of you have been to the Intergenerational Center, but it's a wonderful facility located just behind Senior Services up on Shore Fair. So I hope to see some of you there. Next Tuesday, Matt will be there with Diana Tuffin to talk about and play a little bit of Thelonious Monk. So I think we're all set. So without further ado, please enjoy Moments with Paul.
was born Paul Leroy Robeson on April 9th, 1898 in Princeton, New Jersey, the youngest of the 5 surviving children of my parents. Perhaps you haven't heard of me. Oh, people have called me many things in my time. Singer, actor, lawyer, academic, activist. They even called me communist against America. My father, the Reverend William Drew Robeson, was actually born enslaved on a plantation near Martinsville, North Carolina. But at the age of 15, he escaped, and with his brother Ezekiel followed the Underground Railroad, wading through waters, traversing fields, following that northern star all the way to Pennsylvania, a land of liberty. Wade in the water, wade in the water, children, wade in the water, 'cause you're gonna trouble the water. Once my father reclaimed his rightful freedom. He enrolled in the historic Lincoln University. But before that, he joined the Union Army in an effort to end slavery. But they didn't give him a rifle. They gave him a shovel. In their eyes, he was only fit to be a laborer. But after the Civil War, Pop enrolled in historic Lincoln University and studied to become a Presbyterian minister. And that is where he met my mother. Now, our family knew hardship growing up, but none so great as when I was 6 years old. You see, my mother had grown almost completely blind due to years of teaching school children from books that had nearly disintegrated into antiquity. She was making a snack for me, and she didn't notice when a coal from the stove ignited her dress. There was nothing to be done. And I saw her burn. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. A long way from home. A long ways from home. A long ways from home. A long ways from home. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. A long way from home. A long way from home. A long shortly after my mother's death. Pop was forced out of the presbytery because of comments that he had made when he believed that the Presbyterian church need not be divided by race. So he decided to move our family from Princeton to Somerville, and he was able to found a new church. It was Methodist and Episcopal. And you need to add African and Zion too, because it was actually called St. Thomas, African Methodist Episcopal Zion Church. Well, I learned a great deal from my father, especially from his sermons, which were always filled with the music of our people. We are climbing Jacob's ladder. We are climbing Jacob's ladder. We are climbing Jacob's ladder, children of the Lord. Pop would even let me stand in for him if he ever needed a substitute. His congregation would come up to me after the service. Well done, Paul. Did your daddy proud? My, you have a bright future in front of you. You know, due to the Reverend Robeson's excellent tutelage, all of us Robeson children excelled in school, and Pop never let us believe that we were less than anybody. Shortly before I graduated as valedictorian from Somerville High School in 1915, I competed in the New Jersey State Oratory Competition. I recited a speech by the Haitian Revolutionary General Toussaint Louverture. My children, France comes to make us slaves. God gave us liberty. France has no right to take it away. Burn the cities, destroy the harvest, poison the wells. Show the white man the hell he comes to make. I was awarded third place, but I was expecting to be at least runner-up. One of the judges was a Dean Robeson from the admissions office at Rutgers University. He was impressed by my abilities and invited me to apply. And because of my excellent grades, I received a 4-year academic scholarship. I always wanted to be a rugged man. In fact, when I arrived at school, they let me enroll, but there was no place for me to reside in the dorms. Instead, I was invited to travel across town to a boarding house where I was invited to pay for my own lodgings. Now, I was only the third Negro to attend the school, and none of them had played for their football team, and I wanted to be the first. I knew it was not going to be an easy feat. In fact, the tryouts turned into an epic battle of wills. I remember, on the first play of the scrimmage, I went out for a pass. The next thing I knew, I ended up on the ground, not sure what had happened. But I started my pass pattern, and that's all I can remember. Oh. You see, those fellows wanted to teach me a lesson. And once I was tackled onto the ground, they decided to pile on. They broke my nose. They knocked my shoulder out of its socket. They even used the cleats, the metal cleats on the bottom of their shoes, smashed it into my hand on the ground, and used them to rip some of the nails from my fingers. But I knew I couldn't let them know I was injured. So I quickly recovered. And on the next defensive play, I anticipated a sweep around my end, and I was ready for it. I knocked through the 2 key blockers, grabbed that quarterback, lifted him over my head, and threw him to the ground. And I thought I killed him. And the whistle sounded out. Robe said, "What the hell was that? I've never seen anything like that before in my life." Welcome to the team. And if any of you feel that this man is not capable of being on our squad, come and see me in my office, and you can turn in your uniforms. During my college career, I earned more than 12 varsity letters in baseball, basketball, track and field, and of course, football. where I was named twice to the All-American team with 1917 and 1918. And Pop was there all the time cheering for me in the bleachers. He would say, "You can't just beat them on the field, Paul. You have to beat them in the classroom too." Well, that Dean Robeson from the admissions office noticed there was some similarity in our names. Now, he was very interested about my exploits on and off the field. And he assumed that my intelligence had to have been from some white heritage in my background. Well, my mother, Maria Louisa Bustel, hailed from African, Cherokee, and white Quaker ancestry. Cyrus Bustel was an abolitionist, and he helped the American Revolution by baking bread for George Washington and his troops. Well, I was not about to tell that to old Dean Robeson, but to get some clarity about the similarity in our names, he invited me into his office. Have a seat, Paul. Now, I know your father, the Reverend Robeson, and come from North Carolina. But perhaps you didn't know that the Robeson family, my family, had a plantation in North Carolina. Now, since I have never been one to believe in coincidences, I thought I would ask you plainly. Your father changed his name, didn't he? Dean Robeson. I could not tell you if my father changed his name, but what I can tell you is that my father didn't just come from North Carolina. He escaped from North Carolina. I earned my Phi Beta Kappa key in my junior year and joined the Cap and Skull Honor Society. I even sang with the famous Rutgers Glee Club, but I could not attend any of their all-white social mixers. I did have to take a bit of time off in my junior year to help nurse Pop through an illness. It seems those numerous trolley rides to and from Rutgers had taken their toll on his health. But Pop began to rally, and I returned to school, where my hard work and determination was rewarded as I was voted valedictorian. But Pop never got to see that. I received a telegram telling me to rush home, but I knew I wouldn't get there in time to say goodbye. I went to the funeral home and sat with my father. Swing low, sweet chariot, come for to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, come for to carry me home. Pop was gone. And we, his children, had the duty to carry on his legacy. It was Benjamin, my older brother, who followed in Pop's footsteps to become a minister. Even enlisted in the U.S. Army just like Pop did, and to become a chaplain for the historic all-black 369th Infantry, and was deployed to France in that great war to end all wars. Our brother William went on to medical school, studied anatomy, and became a very successful doctor, while our sister Marion actually emulated our mother by becoming a school teacher. Seeing all of my siblings excel in their fields, finding my own path was becoming problematic. But anticipating a real need to help our people in the 20th century, I found myself studying law at Columbia University in New York City. Those early years years of the 1920s were known as the Harlem Renaissance, and we were developing new ideas, socially, economically, politically, at a lavish party filled with artists, intellectuals, jazz musicians, and entertainers. I met a charming young woman named Deslanda Cordoza Good. But she also had a wonderful, exciting mind. I mean, her beauty and almost alabaster skin must have been from her African, Spanish, and Jewish heritages. But her mind was amazing. She was the head chemist of surgical pathology at Columbia Presbyterian Hospital, the first Negro ever to have a position like that. But to me, she was Essie. And because of a very quick engagement, we were married. And once I was admitted to the New York Bar Association, I accepted a job at a Wall Street law firm, Hayden, Hartford, Hubert, and Hoyts. They never allowed me to try a case, but I was called upon on many occasions to discuss football. And they did have me write all of the briefs for the young white lawyers to use in court. One day, the workload became too much, and I had to call upon the secretary's pool to get some assistance. Excuse me, Miss Shaw, might I please see you in my office? Thank you.
Well, I'm not sure what he wants, but I refuse to take dictation from some dirty, uppity...
Excuse me, Miss Shaw. I'm sure you meant to say, from a lawyer. Since all of the secretaries preferred being unemployed rather than to take my dictation, I realized that I would never be of any real service to the court. So I left the firm and lost interest in practicing law altogether. Once I lived my life as a millionaire. Spent all my money, I just didn't care. Took all my friends out for a mighty good time. A bootleg whiskey, champagne and wine. Then I began to fall so low. Lost all my good friends, had nowhere to go. If I get my hands on $1 again, I'ma hang on to it till that old eagle grins. 'Cause nobody knows you when you're down and out. In your pocket, not one penny.
And as for friends,
You haven't any. And when you get back on your feet again, everybody wants to be your long-lost friend. It's mighty strange without any doubt. Nobody knows you when you're down and out. It's mighty strange without any doubt.
nobody knows you.
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows you.
Nobody knows. Nobody knows you when you're down and out.
Nobody knows you.
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows you.
Nobody knows. Nobody knows you when you're down and out. So I was unemployed, and to help make ends meet with Essie sharing the lion's share, I decided to use some of the skills that I had used in the past. I started playing professional football with the Akron Pros and the Milwaukee Badgers for a couple of seasons. During one of the off seasons, Eslanda insisted that I accompany her to a party given by some of her colleagues at the amateur YMCA theater group. Well, it was a party, and everyone took turns singing songs, telling jokes, and doing dances, and I just stood back and watched the fun. But then they looked to me to join in. Come on, Roby, how about a monologue? I know you can do that. No, speak to us in Greek or Latin. Didn't you sing in your father's church choir? I froze in shock. I could not think of how they knew so much about me. But I looked into the audience and I found Essie's slightly guilty face. Suddenly the words of a sonnet came to my mind. When in disgrace with fortune and men's eyes, I, all alone, beweep my outcast state, and trouble deaf heaven with my bootless cries, look upon myself and curse my fate. Wishing me like to one more rich in hope, featured like him with friends possessed, desiring this man's art and that man's scope with what I most enjoy, contented least. Yet in these thoughts myself almost despising, happily I think on thee, and then my state, like to the lark at break of day arising from sullen earth, sings hymns at heaven's gate. For thy sweet love remembered such wealth brings that then I scorn to change my state with kings. And then I whisked this land into the night, hoping I would never see those people again. But once we got back to our little apartment on 135th Street, the telephone in the hall began to ring. It was the director of the YMCA amateur theater group who had heard my recitation at the party. I tell you, that phone rang 3 times a day for a week. You see, the Harlem YMCA amateur theater group was performing a new play called Simon of Cyrene, about the Negro man who carried the cross for Jesus. Now, the great actor Charles Gilpin was to have played the title character, but he was called out of town to work with Eugene O'Neill in a new play called The Emperor Jones. And there was no one to take his place in the Simon of Cyrene production. I expect I took the job to keep Islanda from badgering me about it, or to escape her mother's ever-present questions about how I was supposed to keep her daughter off of the ever-growing breadlines. When are you going to get a job, Robinson? So I began to study in the theater. Upstage, downstage, stage right, stage left. Find your lights, breathe the role. Rehearsals began, and things were going well. But in the middle of the rehearsal process, I was directed to carry a cross up on the hill, and while doing so, to whistle. Now, of all the things that I've done in my life, one thing I could never do, nothing seems to come out. And during the final dress rehearsal, the director stops the play and says, "All right, Roby, are we going to get the whistle or not? If you can't whistle, just hum something. We can't have a hole in the middle of the play, and let's get on with it." So on opening night, I started carrying that cross up the hill. And then a moment on a stage turned into a moment that would change the rest of my life. I turned to the audience. Were you there when the tears began to flow? Were you there when the tears began to flow? then you know what happened? The audience burst into applause. And so I took my first honest-to-God bow right there on that stage. And if that wasn't bad enough, I stood up and sang another one. Josh fought the battle of Jericho, Jericho, Jericho. Josh fought the battle of Jericho, and the walls come tumbling down. You may talk about your king of Gideon, you may talk about your man of Saul. There's none like good Joshua at the battle of Jericho. Up to the walls of Jericho, he marched with the spear in hand. Go below them ram horns, Joshua cried, 'cause the battle am in my hand. Then the lamb sheep horns begin to blow, the trumpets begin to sound. Joshua commanded the children to shout, and the walls came tumbling down. That morning, Joshua, the battle of Jericho, Jericho, Jericho. Joshua, the battle of Jericho, and the walls come tumbling down. It seemed that I had found my calling. You know, as Londa could see something in me that I could not yet see for myself. And she told me that it would be in our best interests if she were to quit her job at the hospital and begin managing my career. My wife decided to give up a very prosperous career as a pathologist to help support me as a performer. This was an extreme sacrifice. A sacrifice that I could never adequately repay. But she started getting jobs for me. I starred in many productions and sound recordings and many plays. I was in Shuffle Along, Taboo, Porgy, and Eugene O'Neill's All God's Children Got Wings, where I was cast as a Negro lawyer married to a white girl. Now, the Ku Klux Klan did not think very kindly about this production, and they sent us letters warning us there would be violence if we continued with our play. But we were undeterred. And after opening, they sent another letter threatening Mr. O'Neill's son with death. So Mr. O'Neill wrote his own letter, and it contained just one short, two-word phrase. So the play went on to great success. After a couple of years, I was approached by Mr. George Gershwin. Now, he had seen me in the show of Porgy, and I played Crown, the villain. But he assumed that I would want to be in his opera about that story, Porgy and Bess. I didn't love the music, or the idea of having to learn opera, even less spending all night on my knees as a crippled beggar man. I felt that the time for Negro performers begging for work was over, and I politely declined. But of the many socialites, as Londa and I kept as friends, was Carl Van Vechten, who was a music critic for the New York Times. And at one of his parties, he introduced me to the composer Jerome Kern, who had a new show called Showboat. He thought that perhaps I might be interested in going to London. Essie worked out a contract, and we set sail for London, where I was finally recognized for what I was, an educated artist who had earned the right to share the stage with anyone. Drink ye only with thine eyes, and I will pledge with mine. Leave the kiss within the cup, and I'll not ask for wine. The thirst that come, the soul doth rise, doth ask a drink divine. nectar sip, I would not change for thine. As Londa and I decided to make London our home, as many performers of color have been doing for generations to help further their career in the face of American racism. One evening, as Londa and I went to a concert given by one of the famous Negro tenors, Roland Hayes, I was very impressed by his accompanist, Mr. Lawrence Brown. I approached him after the concert and asked if he might be willing to accompany me on a tour that I had scheduled coming up. Larry and I began a collaboration, and we decided to elevate the music of our people. We would do concerts improvised, consisting entirely of Negro spirituals. Now, this is something that had never been done before. And Larry helped me immensely, because he could tell that I had no formal training, and I couldn't even read music.
Oh, by and by,
I'm gonna lay down this heavy load.
oh, by and by,
I'm gonna lay down this heavy load.
I know my robe's gonna fit me well.
I'm gonna lay down this heavy load.
I tried it on at the gates of hell.
I'm gonna lay down this heavy load.
Oh, by and by,
I'm gonna lay down
this heavy
load. Now, my career also included many film productions where I was the leading man. I sang in Proud Valley, King Solomon's Mines, Sanders at the River, Jericho, and of course, Showboat. But not only were we invited for command performances for kings and queens, but I was invited to return to New York to lead a revival of Mr. Eugene O'Neill's The Emperor Jones. Would you believe that on opening night, the audience cheered for 12 curtain calls? But after the final performance, a diminished figure made their way up to the apron of the stage in the now nearly dark theater. It was the great Charles Gilpin. I almost didn't recognize him. He was a shell of a man ravaged by time and the love of drink, forgotten by the American theaters. He mumbled his congratulations and then left. And in his departure, I could see what could happen to me. So I made a vow right then that my story would not end the same way, and that the world I leave behind will remember the name Paul Robeson. My international travels had taught me that racism was not as virulent in Europe as it was in the United States. So we made it a policy that wherever we went, there would be equal accommodations for all of the road crew and film personnel that we worked with, and that we would only perform for an integrated audience. And if these conditions were not met, then we would cancel the performance. Sing your anthem, shout your land's undying fame. Let the wonders fill all nations with your people's golden name. Tell your forebears' noble story, raise on on high your country's sign. Join us in the final glory. Come and raise your flag with mine. Build a road of peace before us, not a wall that doesn't belong. Speed the slow and check the eager, help the weak and curb the strong. None shall push aside another, none shall let another fall. March beside me, arms together, all for one and one for all. Build a road of peace before us, not a wall that doesn't belong. Speed the slow and check the eager, help the weak and curb the strong. None shall push aside another, none shall let another fall. March beside me, arms together, all for one and one for all. Thank you very much. There will be a short 15-minute intermission. To Moscow, I was greeted with a huge crowd of people from all over that Soviet Union. The diversity in the crowd is wondrous to behold. All people from different backgrounds that come together as one to cheer for me. At a welcoming reception given for me at the Kremlin, I met the great first artist of Russia, the filmmaker, Sergei Eisenstein, the great theater practitioners, Vselvolo, Demilovich Meyerhold, and Konstantin Stanislavski. I identified with the people of Russia, as many of them had toiled for centuries to become equal citizens, just like my own people had done, equal citizens in their own nation. We walked among the Russian people. I talked with them. They honored me by giving me the title People's Artist. Once more, boys, and yet once more. As along the shores we run, sing a chanty in the sun. Ay, 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 sing a chanty in the sun. Volga, Manasem, all the river broad and deep. I began to focus my message, to share with the world that people of African heritage had the same honor and grace as any in Western culture. My voice, my mind were my tools to elevate my people, and I was going to share them around the world. One day, I was in the midst of a long, great tour. But I received a message that as Londa had become bedridden while she was pregnant with our child, I made arrangements as quickly as I could to leave the tour. And I returned home to be by her side. By the grace of God, we were blessed with a beautiful baby boy, Paul Robeson Jr. The moon is a charm to keep you from harm, asleep at my breast. The stars all alight will watch over you all night. The river of sleep flow gentle and deep to rock you to rest. So sleep, little one, till darkness is gone. Sleep till the sun rises up in the sky. My little black dove, curl up in your nest of love. Now go to your rest, asleep at my breast, my little black dove. Popularity. I met many people who are very famous for creating democracy in their own lands. Kwame Nkrumah, the first Ghanaian president. Jomo Kenyatta, the first president of Kenya. Jawaharlal Nehru, the first prime minister of India. I had a close, personal friendship with Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois, and I corresponded with James Joyce and Ernest Hemingway. We all tried to make our work stand for peace. And we protested oppression in all forms by writing letters, sending telegrams, and standing on picket lines. I became known as a citizen of the world. But I witnessed the plight of refugees fleeing from mainland Europe to escape the menace of fascism. But needing to help in some way, I arranged for the proceeds of a revival of Eugene O'Neill's All God's Children Got Wings to go to Jewish refugees fleeing Hitler's Germany. These people weep and moan. How long, brethren, how long, too long have these people been asleep, other folks plowing their souls down deep. I learned to speak in over 20 different languages so I can better convey social justice directly to the people. I went to Spain, and during the Spanish Civil War, I witnessed the siege of Madrid, where the latest and modern technology was being applied to modern warfare. I went to the front lines so I can meet the wounded. I can meet members of the International Brigade, and I was compelled to sing for them. I was compelled to sing for the white and black members of the American Abraham Lincoln Battalion who had volunteered to fight side by side against the German and Italian-backed troops of Franco and his revolution against the Spanish Republic. I had made a decision that I would sing for them. But during my singing, a strange calmness had fallen over the battlefield. Both sides ceased their battle. The battlefield fell quiet, and both sides listened to my voice. They listened to my words, they listened to my heart. I knew then that I was more than just a singer, but I was a conduit for the melodies of freedom, for the words of hope and justice. I went to the African continent to find the Igbo people, my father's ancestors. I breathed the air that had circulated back through millennia and warmed myself in the hot African sun while swimming in the rivers that bathed my father's father's father. And I returned to London because when I was in Africa, I saw what colonialism was doing to the native Africans. And I shared my view with the common folk and workers of the British Isles. But when I spoke of how British imperialism was decimating the native Africans, my popularity began to wane, and I grew the attention of British intelligence. Essie and I believed that Europe had become too dangerous for her and our young son. And so they returned to New York as I continued with my work. Well, the entire world erupted into flames because of the attack on Pearl Harbor. And so I returned to the U.S. so I could be closer to my family and to help aid the war effort. I sang concerts for the USO. And I also started a radio broadcast called Ballad for Americans. And it was the most popular radio broadcast since Orson Welles' War of the Worlds. I also led a revival of Shakespeare's Othello on Broadway. Ira Aldridge was the first Negro to play that title character, but I was the first to do it in America. Soft you! A word or two before you go. I have done the state some service, and they know it. No more of that. I pray you, in your letters, when you shall these unlucky deeds relate, speak of me as I am. Nothing extenuate, nor set down aught in malice. Then must you speak of one who loved full well, but too wisely. We were the longest running Shakespearean production in the history of America. But when the World War II ended with the dawn of the nuclear age, I realized that we needed to do something to help the Negro servicemen returning home, because they were coming back to their country to be lynched, burned in the streets, and worse, by racist mobs. We were afraid of another Red Summer of 1919, when Negro servicemen were returning home from the trenches to be castrated in the streets and burned, and sometimes still in the uniform of a grateful nation. To protest the lynching of my people, I became spokesman for a delegation that went to Washington, D.C. to protest the lynchings. We were invited to the White House, and I personally challenged President Truman to use his executive power to force an anti-lynching law. Truman formed a commission and failed to implement any of the positive recommendations. So the plight of the Negro people continued to be an unpaid labor force for an American unjust society. Water boy, where if you don't come, I'm gonna tell your pawn you. There ain't no hammer that's on this mountain that ring like mine, boy, that ring like mine. Gonna bust this rock, boy, from here to Macon, all the way to the jail, boys, yes, back to the jail. You jack of diamond, yes, jack of diamond, I know you of old, boys, yes, know you of old. You done robbed my pocket, yes, you robbed my pocket. You done robbed my pocket of silver and gold. Water boy, where are you hiding? If you don't come, I'm gonna tell your pawn you. Water boy. I began a campaign to show solidarity for my people suffering and to help gain allies in that work. I returned to Europe to visit the communities that inspired me before. Almost all of those communities had been destroyed by the tyranny of the men in power. After a concert in Moscow, I spoke of the deep ties between the American people and the Russian people, especially the Russian Jewish intellectuals who had since disappeared because of the tyranny of the evil men in power. Never say that you have reached the very end, when then skies a better future may portend. For sure the hour for which we yearn will yet arrive, and our marching steps will thunder we survive. For sure the hour for which we yearn will yet arrive, and our marching steps will thunder we survive. Sag nicht kein Mal aus, du gehst im letzten Weg, trotzdem den Bleine verstellen Leute. Willkommen fett noch unser ausgebänkte Show. Zweter beugt und unser Trott mir sehnen da. Weil kommen wird noch unser ausgebänkte Schau. Zweter beugt und unser Trott mir sehnen da. When I returned to the U.S., my passport was revoked by the U.S. State Department in the name of national security. You know, and there I was, being forgotten by the American people. You see, because of comments that I had made about a potential war with the Soviet Union and the U.S., the great baseball player, Jackie Robinson, was called in front of the House Un-American Activities Committee. And they, before I got there, labeled me as a communist agitator. Now, Mr. Robinson was testifying before I was subpoenaed, and he spoke of there needing to be an end to Jim Crow laws and perhaps a political change. But he also said, and I quote, Americans of many faiths have too much invested in this country for any of us to throw it away because of a siren song sung in bass by Paul Robeson.
Mr. Robeson, would you please step forward to the table? Identify yourself by name, residence, and occupation.
My name is Paul Robeson. I live at 16 Jumel Terrace, New York City. I am an actor and singer by occupation, and I practice law on the side from time to time.
And are you appearing today in response to a subpoena served upon you by the House Committee of Un-American Activities?
Oh, yes.
Now, Mr. Robeson, did you file a passport application on July 2, 1954?
I filed about 25 in the past few months.
Well, when applying for this application, were you requested to submit a non-communist affidavit?
I considered this issue very thoroughly with my counsel and my family and friends. I would not think of signing such an affidavit. It is a complete contradiction to the rights and privileges of American citizens.
Mr. Robeson, are you now a member of the Communist Party?
Oh, please.
Please answer, Mr. Robeson.
You know, I really thought I was here about some passport. All right. It's a legal party, I believe, like the Republican Party of the Democratic Party.
Mr. Robeson, was your communist name John Thomas?
My name is Paul Robeson, and what I have to say, I have said in public all over the world as Paul Robeson, and that is why I'm here today.
Are you now a member of the Communist Party?
Do you want to come to the ballot box when I vote and see?
You're directed to answer the question.
In 1946 in California, I stated for the record that I was not a communist. Since that time, I have refused to answer that question, and I refuse now, Mr. Chairman, because my vote is nobody's business.
You are directed to answer the question, Mr. Robeson.
In the first place, gentlemen, wherever I've been, and I've been many places, the first to die in the battle against fascism has been the communist. And I have laid many a wreath on many a communist grave, and that is not criminal. And in the second place, the First Amendment has nothing to do with criminality. Therefore, everything I have said, I stand on the First Amendment. Mr. Walters, is it not?
Yes.
The Pennsylvania Walters, the author of all those bills designed to keep all kinds of decent people out of this country.
No, sir, only your kind.
Colored people like myself from the West Indies,
No,
and
we're
so
trying
on.
to make it easy to get rid of your kind too, sir. Are you a communist?
I am not on trial today for whether or not I'm a communist. I'm being tried for standing up and fighting for the rights of my people who are still second-class citizens in this country. You want to shut up every Negro who has the courage to stand up and fight for the rights of his people and for the rights of workers.
Now, Mr.
And
Wilson, that's
please be fair
uncalled
with me. Please just try to be fair with me. Now, I have stood on many a picket line all over the world. And for your Pennsylvania steelworkers too, Mr. Walters. And that's why I'm here today. And can you please let me read my statement?
No, you may not, but let me read a statement, Mr. Robeson, that you made about the Communist Party. The Communist Party, the Soviet Union, is the only country I've ever been in where I have felt completely at ease.
I suffer no prejudice as I am feeling here today.
What prejudice are you talking about? You graduated valedictorian from Rutgers. You went to Columbia Law School, And I seem to remember seeing you play football at Lehigh.
Yeah, we beat Lehigh. I scored 3 touchdowns in that game.
Mr. Robeson, while in Paris in 1949, did you not state that the American Negro would refuse to fight if the United States went to war against the Soviet Union?
I was invited to the Paris Peace Conference, and I wasn't asked there to sing. I was asked there to talk to about 2,000 students from all over the colonial world. I remember saying, I find it inconceivable that the American Negro would go to war on behalf of those who have oppressed them for generations against a country like Russia, which acknowledges the full dignity of the Negro.
Are you now, or have you ever been, a member of the Communist Party?
On many occasions, I have publicly expressed my belief in the principles of scientific socialism, my deep conviction that for all humankind, a socialistic society is an advance to a higher stage of life. That is, a form of society which is economically, socially, culturally, and ethically superior to a system based on production for private profit. The development of human society from tribalism to feudalism to capitalism to socialism is brought about by the needs and aspirations of humankind for a better way of living.
I'd like to read another statement, Mr. Robeson. This is by Mr. Thomas Young, a Negro publisher. Mr. Robeson is now so far out of touch with Negro thinking in his everyday emotions, he can no longer speak authoritatively about or for the race.
Mr. Chairman, I protest the reading of this statement. If you have Mr. Young here so that I can cross-examine, and I can, okay. But otherwise, why can't I read my statement?
No, you may not, Mr. Robeson. Mr. Robeson, why did you just not stay in Russia?
Now that is an important question. Because my father was enslaved here, and I have many cousins who are sharecroppers here. And I will stay here and have a piece of it just like anybody else. And I have never been able to measure my own success in terms of myself. And that is why my own success has never meant all it should mean, really. And I have sacrificed literally hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars for what I believe in.
Will the photographers please desist from taking photographs? It is rather nerve-wracking.
It's quite all right. I'm used to it. I've been in moving pictures, and I can pose, and I can smile. But I cannot smile when I'm talking to you.
Mr. Robeson, the reason why you're no longer in Russia is that you're trying to promote the communist cause here in this country.
May I read my statement?
No, you may not.
I will say before this committee that you will not stop me from speaking out against injustices done to my people.
Mr.
You can
Robeson,
brand me a communist, and I will still speak out. You can turn the Negro leadership against me, which you've done, and I will still speak out for the Negro people. You can take my passport away and force me to live off the charity of my brother Benjamin, and you won't stop me from crying out. And if you do succeed in socially, culturally, and economically and politically assassinating me, don't think you'll stop me. Because it's not just me, it's the Negro people whom I echo. And when you do silence my voice by making me a non-person, there will be another voice, and another voice,
that is enough.
And another.
Robeson, that is enough. I've had enough of this. This meeting is now adjourned.
I think it should be. I think you should adjourn it forever. Gonna lay down my sword and shield down by the riverside, down by the riverside, down by the riverside. Gonna lay down my sword and shield down by the riverside and study war no more. Being called in front of that committee was an affront to anyone who had worked for democratic rights around the world. But the damage was done. Now, because of fear and propaganda, 80 of my concerts were canceled, and my royalties dried up because of shop owners refusing to carry my records for fear that racist mobs would ransack their stores. I battled for years to get my passport reinstated, and during that time, I studied Chinese. And I met with Albert Einstein to discuss the prospects of world peace in the atomic age. and I published my own personal manifesto. Here I stand. I began a campaign to show solidarity for my people who were suffering under Jim Crow laws. I went to the American South, but for fears of riotous mobs, we were not allowed to use any theaters or performance venues at all. So we affixed loudspeakers to go on top of automobiles, and my voice was projected through the streets as we drove through the South. And when I returned to the land of my father's bondage, to North Carolina, to help arrange and organize the largest union in the South outside of Atlanta, Local 22 in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, the local government quickly passed a law forbidding all loudspeakers from being affixed atop of automobiles. And so, we found local churches, and we performed in outdoor venues. I dreamed I saw Joe here last night, alive as you and me. Says I, but Joe, you're 10 years dead. I never died, says he. I never died, says he. We went up to Peekskill, New York, but before our concert, we were met with a huge crowd with rancorous shouts and a bloodthirsty mentality. A riot ensued, and peaceful men and women were being attacked and lynched and murdered simply because they supported me. Shortly after that horrific day, I declared, I'm going to sing wherever the people want me to sing, and I won't be frightened by crosses burning in Peekskill or anywhere else. And standing there as big as life, him smiling with his eyes, says Joe, what they forgot to kill went on to organize, went on to organize. We returned to Peekskill, and our union supporters created a human chain to protect the audience and myself. We crossed the country, and we went to Peace Arch Park near the US-Canadian border on the West Coast. And in those days, you didn't need a passport to go into Canada. That is, of course, unless you're Paul Robeson. And there were 30 to 40,000 people from both sides of the border. And we just sang there, under the Peace Arch. From San Diego up to Maine, in every mine and mill, where workers strike and organize, says Joe, I'm with you still. Says Joe, I'm with you still. The people of the Soviet Union honored me by nominating me and awarding me the Stalin Peace Prize. But I was refused the opportunity to travel abroad to receive it. And when it arrived in New York City with $25,000 in prize money, the IRS was there, ready to take a big wet bite. I battled for years to get my passport reinstated. And when it finally was, because of the Supreme Court decision in 1958, Kent versus Dulles, I returned to Europe, using London as a base, singing concerts and championing the ideals that I had championed before. We had planned a long-awaited trip to China. But while en route in Moscow during an uncharacteristically raucous party in my hotel, I was stricken with an unknown illness. Still away, still The next morning, the hotel manager found me in the bathroom in a pool of my own blood. My wrist had been cut. My son, now grown, heard about what happened to me and rushed to be by my side. He arranged to have me return home to New York, but because of the hallucinations of my illness, I was examined and committed to an asylum in London, London's Priory Hospital, where I endured more than 50 electroshock treatments and addictive barbiturate drug therapy. After 6 months, my family successfully petitioned to have me transferred to a hospital in East Berlin, where I received the psychoanalytical treatment that I needed. And after nearly 2 years, I was allowed to return home, where I returned to sing one concert. And after Essie died from a long battle with cancer, I moved in with my sister Marion to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And in her spare room, I watched the world go by. As I look back on my long career, I often think about the words of the song that I've been asked to sing on many occasions. The words of Old Man River have been with me for a long time, and I have felt compelled to change them to reflect the current events of the day. Though my body now fails me, I want you to know that I am the same Paul, dedicated as ever to the worldwide cause for freedom, peace, and justice. I share my story with you tonight so that we all may remember that the struggle against oppression is not yet over, and that the war against oppression in all forms must continue with unwavering resolve. There's an old man called the Mississippi. That's the old man I don't want to be. What does he care if the world has troubles? What does he care if the land ain't free? Old Man River, that old man river, he must know something. He don't say nothing. He just keeps rolling. He keeps on rolling along. He don't plant taters. He don't pick cotton. And them that plants them is unforgotten. But old man river, it just keeps rolling along. You and me, we sweat and strain, bodies all aching and racked with pain. bail. You show a little grit and you land in jail. But I keep laughing instead of crying. We must keep voting until we're dying. But old man river and yours is flowing. Thank you all very, very much. It is a pleasure to have you here. Can we have the lights, please? Just turn those lights on. That's great. Thank you. Perhaps I just want to thank my colleagues on this stage, Miss Charlie Schaefer, Matt Kendrick, Kania Mills, and Chris Bagley. Thank you all very much. I'd also like to specially thank the entire board and staff of Temple Emmanuel who have graciously allowed us to use this space. It is a wonderful space, and we thank you very much. Very special thanks to our deputy who is keeping us safe here. We're very, very excited for that. And special thanks to my wife, Karen Click McKinney, who has very graciously provided a bit of a reception through those doors right there, because tomorrow is my birthday. And lastly, like that little baby I sang to, right? Isn't that pretty? My little red rose. Special thanks to Music Carolina, their entire board and their artistic staff. They insisted that we do this show. We've been friends, but we haven't done this show yet, so we have done it finally. Let's do it again next season. Thank you so very much, the entire staff. Please join us for some cake, coffee, and water. It's not much, but it's free, so happy birthday to me. You're welcome. You get two. It's got thorns on it, so be careful. Hey, buddy, they're all for you. The yellow. Oh, photos? Want a quick little photo? Joe, where do you want it? Up here? Yeah, let's move these chairs right quick.